Hey everybody, what's up? This is Chris Burton, your host here with Mike Harris. Mike, what's up?
What's going on, bud?
Hey man, we got together a little bit. We were talking about what we should talk about. First thing I think we kind of agreed on was the Boston Celtics and their Isaiah Thomas problem. So I know that you kind of
call it a problem.
I mean, it's a problem. I mean, if you Google it right now, the first 10 things are the Celtics should trade Isaiah Thomas. So I'm not sure if that's the right move, but we're going to talk a little bit about kind of what Boston should do going forward. So, Mike, go ahead and jump in and tell me your thoughts.
If I'm Boston, that team as set is ready to win right now, so there's no need to go out and try to trade Isaiah Thomas, the leader of your team, one of the top scorers in the league, who's only getting paid $6.5 million for one more season. I understand his stock is probably not going to be any higher than it is right now, so it makes the most sense to try to get as much value out of him in a trade. But the team's ready to win right now, and I think even if you trade Markelle Fultz with the number one overall, which they have now, it's not going to put you over the top over Cleveland. The one thing that team is missing is a solid four. And a friend of mine and I, who's a Boston fan, were talking, and I said what they need to do is reunite Paul Millsap with Al Horford, or what's left of Al Horford's torso. And dun 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 dun. Guess who decided today that they're gonna test the free agency market this summer? Mr. Millsap. All I have to do is just cut Kelly Olynyk, whatever his name is, Kelly Olynyk. The guy had one solid game. He's gonna get overpaid this summer, just like Bismack Biyombo did last year. They have a lot of forwards they can cut. They have two guys overseas that can come in and take those spots. They have 4 picks this year, including that number one overall. That's going to save them a ton of cap space to go out and get Paul Millsap. I'm taking him over Gordon Hayward, and I think this team's going to be number one seed again, potentially, over Cleveland next season. Keep Isaiah.
So, my thing is this. It comes down to a lot of people are, prisoners of the moment. They lose one game with him or without him. And a game that really, they were down by 21 in that game. It kind of took a fluke, everything going right for them. Cleveland just got super cold from the field. So they were able to come back in that game. And then Avery Bradley gets a luck of the Irish roll at the end to win the game. So I've always kind of felt this about, there's some players that I feel if you're going to build your team around that they're a good player, but it's not a guy that's I feel like there's only a handful of guys that you can build a team around in the NBA and win a title with. And I think there's probably 4 or 5 players in the league that you could do that with now.
I agree.
I'm not sure if Isaiah Thomas is one of those players. I just think he's too small. Going against.
Not only that, he's already 31.
Yeah, I mean, he's already 31. What you said earlier, he only makes $7 million a year, and he's gonna make that next year. My thing is this: he's gonna want the max. So if Boston's not, he's gonna get the max from somewhere. Somebody's gonna pay him the max. So If you're Boston, do you let him walk for nothing, or do you try to get something from a team?
Is it nothing if it's your best chance of winning a championship next season?
Do you think they're even close to winning a title?
I think if they get a solid 4, yeah.
See, I think they're lucky to be where they're at now, and I think the only reason that they're there is because Cleveland just decided the regular season wasn't important. I think that other teams are built better than them. I think Washington has a better roster. I think Toronto has a better roster. Now, maybe next year some of those guys leave. That could change. But if I'm Boston, there's a team that I'm talking to that I think might jump on it, and that's the Knicks. If I'm Boston and I can get that 8th pick from New York, they get Isaiah Thomas, which, makes Carmelo happy, shows Porzingis that they're trying to win now. And I think that would kind of boost the morale of the team a little bit, of the franchise. And you get that 8th pick if you're Boston. Now, with those 2 picks, you're going to get Fultz. With the 8th pick, you're getting another solid player. I don't know who they would get. They could get Markkanen down there at 8. Or, well, not only that, but then next year they get Brooklyn's pick for next year They don't have to swap. They just get it straight up.
Right.
And, I mean, you're looking at you opened your window from a year or two to about 10 years. So it's, they're in a good spot. I mean, no team in the league doesn't envy what they have right now. I mean, they've got assets to burn through. So it's a tough spot, but it's a good spot to be in.
What's your theory on them trading down? Is there an upside to it? I mean, there is, but what do you think it would be?
From them trading down from 1?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it depends on how far they go and who they want. If they're going to stick with Isaiah and they're going to say Isaiah's our point guard, then they move down to maybe 4 and get, Jason Tatum, who I think, honestly, if you're going to keep Isaiah Thomas, I think Jason Tatum or Josh Jackson fits better with what they want to do. They're both athletic. Josh Jackson can come in tomorrow and defend half the league. I mean, he's going to be an elite defender for years. So I don't know if I'd move down, man, because if you move down and Markelle Fultz ends up being the next Westbrook or Harden, they're never going to live that down. So
that's the thing.
Don't get cute. Don't outthink the room. That's something I always talk
about. I get that. My thinking is because they have such a wealth of talent on the team right now. Obviously, they're the number 1 seed. They are in a position to win now. It's probably one of the better positions they're going to be in. Whereas, not to say that this is the only case scenario, but if they if they keep the first and take Markelle Fultz, it's basically the writings on the wall that Isaiah is going to be gone, which means you're probably going to be looking at re-signing Avery or Marcus Smart or Marcus Smart. We'll get back to that in a second. But that also means that you're really planning for the future, as in, well, we had our shot, we lost it, oh well, on to the next thing. I think if you have something that close as you do right now, you do everything you can to win it. Kind of the way the Raptors were trying with Ibaka and PJ Tucker during the season, which were 2 great trades. I thought. I don't know how that didn't work out for them. I think
if Kyle Lowry stays healthy all year, I think that's a different team, and I think that's it. I'm not saying they beat Cleveland, but that's a different series. It's not a sweep. And that's another thing. It might go 6.
He's another 32-year-old guy who,
right.
I mean, just found his offensive game in the last 5 years. I mean.
So Boston,
again.
Boston's in a tough spot right now. I mean, it's not a tough spot, but they're kind of at a crossroads. They have not many teams have this luxury where they're competing now, but they still have all these assets to either build or trade for a superstar. So it's gonna be interesting to kind of see what they do. If they can't get one of the top free agents this summer, then I'm just I'm staying pat. I might. Depending on what I could get for Isaiah Thomas, I might make that move. And then, because if they trade Isaiah Thomas and they get Fultz and another top 10 pick, I don't think their roster is any worse than it was than it is this year. I think it's, if anything, a little bit better maybe. But we'll see how it plays out.
All right, so we're going back to we're gonna fast forward to next summer, where you'll have Isaiah Thomas, Avery Bradley, Jay Crowder, Marcus Smart, all hitting free agency. You have Isaiah Thomas, who's going to demand max dollars. Avery Bradley, who's going to be close to max dollars. Marcus Smart, if he has another game like he did this past game, and say he hits his offensive blossoming late, a la Kyle Lowry and Isaiah Thomas, and then you'll have Jay Crowder, who's been grossly underpaid for the last 4 years. Who do you keep? Who do you let go?
If it's me, out of that group, I'm keeping Bradley. I don't know if I'm not paying him max though. I'm not paying any of those dudes max money. I don't think any of those guys. I know they're gonna get it from somewhere, but that's not gonna be from me. Bradley's a defensive specialist. I don't think you pay max money for those kind of guys. I mean, I guess it would kind of depend on what Jay Crowder would want, because I think he's the most consistent other than Isaiah Thomas. Marcus Smart is just so up and down. I mean, you don't know what you're getting from him game in and game out. Bill Simmons, every game he has 4 or 5 tweets just talking about how much he pretty much hates Marcus Smart.
Right, but given game 3,
yeah,
nobody saw that coming. Let's say he has
but
2 more of those this series, and then next season he's averaging 16 off the bench, 25 minutes a game, going into a contract season.
Yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, it depends on how these draft picks pan out. If Jaylen Brown grows up and can keep growing and turns into a player that they think he can be, a top 3 pick, like they drafted him. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, they're starting to see some signs of what he can do. Then it kind of makes your job a little bit easier. The problem is they haven't had any of these picks that they've spent, these top 10 picks, Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown. They haven't had these dudes really kind of come in the league and just immediately tear it up. So it's kind of, they don't really know what they have in a lot of these guys. So they're having to
they also drafted these guys as backups. So.
Right.
They knew coming in. Hey, remember when Jaylen Brown was supposed to come to the Mavericks because the whole Rondo trade?
Yeah, dude. There's so many guys that should have come to the Mavericks or that were on their way. And
the whole hour podcast for that one.
Yes, at least.
Just 45 minutes of sobbing and then 15 minutes listing.
We'll always have 2011. That's all I'm worried about.
Yeah.
All right, so let's.
Could have been 2006 too, but it's a different day.
Yeah.
Different day. We can talk about that.
Let's switch gears a little bit. So as most people know, the NBA playoffs have kind of been a dud overall. There's not much competition. It's been 2 teams on a tear the entire way. Golden State looks like they're 2
trains on one track, and you know what's going to happen at the end. They're both going to hit.
Yeah, it looks like Golden State is going to sweep San Antonio. Cleveland should finish out that series in 5. If they don't, I'll be shocked. And so we started thinking, what are some rules or some things that we would change about the NBA that either make it better to watch or make it just make the game better? Because I think a lot of these rules that they put in, they're so worried about viewership that it dilutes the game, and then that's what people end up wanting to see, and they're not getting it. So the first rule that I have, I've got looks like 7. I've got 7 rules that I wrote down. The first one is the jump ball rule. I hate that a point guard can go down there and tie up a center, and he gets rewarded by having to jump against that center to gain possession. So what I think is possession should always go to the defense. So if they tie up, no matter what the situation is, if the defense ties up the ball, defense gets the ball. I think it's kind of rewarding the defense for, because it's basically a steal if you really think about it.
Yeah, I get that. So you don't think it should be like the NFL, and if it's a jump ball, it's offensive play?
No, because it's not. Because then no one would try to tie it up. Because all you're doing then is, you're just letting them reset their set. Their play or their set. If it's me, if I'm running the league, I'm saying let's reward the defense because they already put so many hindrances against the defense. Anyways, you can't touch anybody anymore. So let's at least give them something to where if they tie it up, they get rewarded.
Okay, I get that. And I kind of want to just play devil's advocate with each other on these two.
Yeah.
The only issue I see with that is it's going to lead to more fouls, which is going to lead to a slower game.
Well, it wouldn't be more fouls if they'd quit calling every touch foul every time somebody drives the lane.
Well, that's a different subject. But yeah, I agree with that.
All right, so what'd you have as your first one?
My first one, it's actually been talked about by a few coaches at their weekly summit for the last few years. It may not be the most practical, but you kind of sit down and think about it. It could make sense is having 4 referees on the floor as opposed to just 3. We can kind of cut back on all those what-if calls, those late whistles. Like, I don't know if I saw it right, but I'm just going to blow the whistle anyway because it looks like somebody left their feet and it has a 23 on his jersey. Just more eyes on a play at any given time is definitely going to be better as far as decision-making goes. The only issue I see with that is that it could make the game last longer when you have some guy that might be a little whistle happy on the far end of a play, or if you have to kind of defer to a different referee on almost every other call, it's because he had a better viewing angle. I get that that's kind of the case right now, but it's just there's pros and cons to the situation.
I like the idea of having another ref, but like you kind of hit on, if you have the more eyes you have on something, the more interpretations you're going to see of that call. So, two guys might think it's a foul, two guys might not think it's a foul, and then, at least with a three-man crew, you can kind of do, majority. Okay, two officials think it's one way, one official thinks it's the other way. Let's go with this. So, I mean, I could see it going either way, but I'll get into some other things that I think they could fix that would help the referees a little bit, but I could definitely see them going to 4 officials just because the game's so fast now, and it's hard for those guys to see everything because the guys are just so athletic and can move so quick.
You got Giannis Antetokounmpo taking 4-step fast breaks and he's already at the rim.
From end to end, yeah.
Yeah.
So my second rule that I would change is under 2 minutes when you can advance the ball in a timeout, I don't think you should be allowed to advance it to the timeline or the 3-point line or whatever it's called. I think you should go to half court because you're not. I mean, with 1.1 seconds, that's not supposed to be a lot of time to do anything. But the way they have it now, I mean, you get the bat. I mean, you're getting it from 20 feet from the basket pretty much. I just think it's way too close. I think it makes these games to where coaches save all their timeouts, so the last minute of the game lasts 30 minutes. And you talk about something that's terrible to watch. That is terrible to watch.
Hour and a half to watch the last 2 minutes of a playoff game.
Right.
And that's all you're going to get. A close playoff game, I should say. Yeah, that's all you're going to get. Especially if it's Spurs Detroit back in, what was that?
Oh, my God.
2001?
Whatever. You're going way back. You're going 90.
Yeah. Yeah, it was 2001, I think. Yeah, I see what you're saying. That's like a perfect segue into what my next rule change, I think, should be. I think there should be fewer timeouts.
Okay.
I think 6 is too many. I get that, these guys need to, have a little sit down and rest in some orange slices. But, 6 timeouts I think is way too many, especially trying to speed up the game and not have everybody sit there for 3 hours. Now we have TV timeouts like we do in college basketball. It's getting a little too ridiculous for me. I just want my game to know it's going to be over with in no longer than 2.5 hours. And I don't want to have, these ridiculous timeouts in under 30 seconds. Everybody's just saving all the timeouts, like you said. And, like the last 30 seconds of a game lasts 15 minutes.
And like you said, you get a timeout every, 4 minutes, I think, for TV timeouts. So you're getting a timeout every 4 minutes anyways. So inside of those gaps, and that's not even including the end of the quarter, halftime. Now you're giving them, 7 or is it 6 now?
6.
6. It used to be 7, didn't it?
It used to be 7, yeah.
Yeah, so they cut down a little. I'd like to see them go to 5, and I know they're never going to cut the TV timeouts.
No.
But the last thing in the world I want is to sit there, and I almost look for it now at the end of games. I look down at the bottom where it shows how many timeouts they have, because that tells me how long I'm in store for the next minute and a half. Mm-hmm. So I completely agree with that. I'd like to see less timeouts as well. What's another one you got?
This one is a rule change that I didn't actually think about until today. I was kind of skimming around on the interwebs and looking at some stuff. And then when I saw this, I was like, oh, this is actually, it makes sense. We're doing a lot more to protect players in the league nowadays and try to make the game, easier for kids to follow so they don't try to be dirty players when they're growing up and playing, kind of learn to play the right way. So I think that anytime there's a moving screen, it should equal a flagrant 1 call.
Flagrant 1?
Yeah.
For a moving screen.
For a moving screen.
Something that they call wrong half the time anyways.
But I bet they'll stop trying to do it. How many times do you see Zaza Pachulia out there running, moving screens, and hitting somebody in the face with an elbow?
Not enough. I wish I saw more.
How many times do you see LaMarcus Aldridge move? No. Okay. The guy that gets away with it the more than anybody in the world that I've seen is Pau Gasol. Ever since he played for the Grizzlies. I mean, all he does is moving screen and then roll the basket. And he has a wide open layup at the rims because whoever was coming around the corner got, a mouthful of elbow.
See, instead of doing that, I wish that they would just let them hand check a little bit again. They used to.
Never going back to that.
No, they'll never let them do that now. But used to, you could put the hand on. Then it went to the elbow, and you can't even do that now. Like, you can't even.
Right.
I would like to at least see them to where you can bump that guy off this, because as a defender, you're pretty much screwed. I mean,
exactly.
You can't bump the ball defender. You can't ride him off of that pick. And if you try to run through the pick, you're going to get a foul. So, I mean, you're pretty much at the mercy of the ball handler.
Right.
And it's why you're seeing... Go ahead.
Those hard picks when you see a guy come up the floor, and then it looks like he just got blindsided by, a 7-foot center, and he's laying on his back looking up. That was technically a moving screen, but the ball handler turned him into the guy. He didn't see him coming.
Sometimes it is. Sometimes that's the guy that's setting the pick. That's the defender of that guy not telling him, hey, you have a pick left or pick right.
Right.
I mean, it's just like in football. If you're going for the quarterback or you're coming on a kick return or something, and you don't see the guy coming at you blocking, you're gonna get leveled. So it's the same thing. I agree they need to tighten up what is a moving screen and what's not. But a lot of times, man, that I've seen, it is a moving screen. They just don't call it. As a rule of thumb, you're supposed, and a lot of that's on the ball handler, because if the ball handler is supposed to wait until that guy gets set. If he starts going early, then that's when you get your moving screens, because the screener is trying to overcompensate for having to get in position. So that's when you see him level people.
Then there's also the case of when the player's front court is yelling, hey, you got a screen coming up on your left. He repositions himself. The screener repositions himself at the same time.
Right.
And then you get a moving screen that way. So, it works both ways, but I feel like it would just be safer for the game, for everybody involved. I mean, you don't want to see some superstar getting... I mean, let's face it. I mean, there's a lot of players out there that want to lay Russell Westbrook on his back sometimes. And a cheap shot like a moving screen would be the best way to do it. So.
But I thought that's why they wore those under compression clothing now. I thought it was supposed to keep them from getting injured of all sorts.
You know what's funny? I can't remember if it was Under Armour or Nike. It was like 2 years ago, and they were saying that it's insane how much NBA players probably wear more padding than most NFL players do.
I know Karl Malone has come out and said multiple times that he thinks it's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree with him, man. Like, 80s, early 90s, you watch those games, and those dudes aren't half as big as a lot of these guys aren't. I mean, look at John Stockton. I mean, that dude was the smallest dude on the court every time he stepped on the court.
If he was wearing any kind of padding, you'd see it with his short shorts and his medium-sized jersey.
Yeah, it just made it work.
I think all that chest hair probably padded him up.
Just made it work, though. My next rule would be, it's kind of an NCAA rule as well. I would like to see them go to either no college or they have to go 2 years. This one and done thing, I mean, the first, I think it's 8 or 9 picks are going to be freshmen, or, the guy from France, obviously he's not a freshman, but he's at that age. I think he's 19.
Can you say his name?
Frank yeah.
Yeah, I can't say it either.
I can get to the end, and then after that, I struggle. But my thing is this: a lot of these, and you're seeing it with a lot of these teams that always stay at the bottom, is these guys just aren't ready. They come in. Look at Jaylen Brown, for instance. If Jaylen Brown would have had another year in college and got to play, like, what is he really getting this year? I think he'd have been way better served coming back to Cal last year. He went to Cal, right? Jaylen Brown, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he'd have been way better off playing another year, even if he just dominate, and then come in, you have another year to get bigger. Or if you're one of these guys like LeBron or Kobe, or, Ben Simmons could have come out straight out of high school, then those guys can come out. But And if you want to come out and you want to get drafted in the late first, early second round, then fine. But if you go to college, you got to go for 2 years. And I think it would stop this whole thing where these guys come in. Because another thing, too, is you only have about 30 to 35 games of film on these guys against elite competition. So you're not really getting a whole lot as far as scouting them, seeing what they can do, seeing what their weaknesses are. So when they come in, you don't really know what you got.
And just to counter that argument, I mean, nobody's seen Ben Simmons against stiff competition.
No.
I played garbage teams on a garbage team.
Yeah. So what's the next one you got, Mike?
Well, to kind of jump onto that, actually, that was one of mine. I completely agree. I think that should go back to allowing these guys to come straight out of high school if they want to. I think the one and done thing is ridiculous. Conspiracy theory Harris just believes that NCAA and NBA have some sort of, unspoken agreement where they prefer the players go to college at least one year. So those big programs can keep getting their players like a Kentucky or a Duke and or Memphis used to, or any team that really Calipari has ever coached for that matter.
I don't think you're gonna have. I think if you had a rule where you could come straight out, I don't think 15, 20 people are gonna jump from high school to the pros. I don't think you're gonna have that many guys make that leap.
I think a lot of guys know it. I mean, unless they're that good, of all the guys that jumped from high school straight into the pros, off the top of my head, Eddie Curry is the only one I can think of that just did not pan out well. Who am I not thinking of?
Kwame Brown.
Oh yeah, he did come from high school, didn't he?
Yeah.
Okay, that was just bad on Jordan drafting him that early anyway. In his defense, he was a good defender. He was not good enough to shoulder any sort of scoring weight on the team. He should never have been the number one overall. He probably should have been lottery pick. But I take that back. He probably is good enough to be a lottery pick. I think he should not have been number one overall. But anybody else I'm not thinking of?
There's definitely more.
No. When you think of guys like LeBron, KG, Kobe, technically Tony Parker, technically Dirk, technically Pau Gasol. I mean, I think Marc Gasol came out of high school too, right? No.
I don't know, dude. He came in the league and he was like 100 years old.
Well, no, he was like 300 pounds.
Yeah.
When he was in high school, and he dropped all that weight. That was crazy.
So I just Googled it, and there's some guys. Desagna Diop.
Double
10.
B. Dallas.
Sean Livingston was a 4th overall pick when he came out.
Yeah, but he was good.
Jonathan Bender.
One of the Pacers, I remember him.
Sebastian Telfair.
Oh yeah, he could have been good.
Darius Miles.
I thought they played in college.
No, he didn't.
With Quentin Richardson?
Quentin Richardson went to DePaul, I think.
I thought they played on the same team. Oh, okay.
So, yeah. I mean, like I said, leave it up to them. But if you go for 2 years. And then that way, college, that freshman year is not just some, because who's going to take school seriously if you only have to be there for a few months?
Right. You're just getting your booster money and
exactly
waiting out.
So my next rule would be coaches challenges, but it'd be a little bit different. You get 2 a game, and if the call, so say there's an offensive interference call, and I challenge it, but the call ends up standing because either video evidence proved it or they just couldn't overturn it, then it becomes a one-shot technical. So the other team gets a one-shot technical and the ball. Mm-hmm. And I just think, and I think they should expand what they can replay a little bit, because some of the stuff that they can replay doesn't make sense to me. Like that, like they'll go and they'll look at the monitor for an out of bounds play the entire time, but they won't go look at a backcourt, or They won't go look at
a potential goaltending off the backboard or something.
Exactly. You know, in
Right.
fact, offensive interference, they don't even look at that under 2 minutes.
No. Uh-uh.
I mean, that should definitely be the other thing they look at is if it's a 2 or a 3. So
Yeah.
you tell me what's a bigger deal, if that's a 2 or a 3, or if a basket just got taken off because you think that it's offensive goaltending, but it's really not.
Yeah.
So I would like to kind of see. I don't want them to, and when they do replay, you have a clock. You say, okay, you got 1 minute to look at this, and if you can't get it in that minute, then it stays with whatever the call is.
I completely agree with that.
So-
The ref should be held accountable on their time, just like everybody else.
What's another one you got?
All right. It kind of piggybacks off what you were just talking about. It was kind of tweaking the goaltending and offensive interference rule, so to say. So right now, if I'm not mistaken, the rule is if the ball is anywhere over the rim, as in anywhere in vertical direction over the rim, you can't touch it. I think it needs to be at least like a minimum, I should say, a threshold area where if it's 6 inches above the rim, but it's still over, it's open game. If it's on the lip of the rim, but let's say if half the ball is sticking over, it's open game. I think it's too ticky-tack to, penalize somebody for momentum, going to get a rebound, put back dunk, whatever the case may be, and then have them, ruin a perfectly good field goal just on account of they couldn't see how far the ball was above the rim based on where they were standing at the time.
Yeah, see, I like where you're going with it, but if they were going to make a change, they would have to just say either it stays or there's no interference. Because if you start getting into how much of the ball is over a certain area of the rim, I mean, can you imagine the disputes on that? I mean, that would be impossible.
Easy fix. You just put it on the backboard. Mark it on the backboard.
What do you mean you mark it on the backboard?
On the glass part of the backboard, they already have the box over the rim.
Right.
You put a mark inside that box where the threshold is on how high it needs to be above the rim before you can touch it, and not be an offensive interference or goaltending. Well, not goaltending, offensive interference. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I got you. I'm trying to decide if I hate it or not. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's one of those things that I'd have to see it played out. Like I'd have to see it in the preseason,
right?
See how it plays out. But
it's definitely one of those things they always test out in the summer league.
Right,
first.
Exactly.
And I think they're actually going to test out the full ref idea in the summer league.
Oh, really?
It's been rumored, and we'll see if it happens or not. But yeah. I can't imagine there's going to be too many people at the game for the summer league where a fourth ref will be in the way of, paparazzi or a Kardashian or something like that.
Right. So my next rule change would be that technicals count as personal fouls. Because right now, if you say Draymond Green, I just drew a name out of a hat. It has nothing to do with his history. But he gets called for a foul, okay? So that's his second foul, and it's in the first half. That's his second foul. And then he blows up because he's like, hey, I've got 2 technicals to work with. I might as well get one now. Well, if he gets that technical, now he has 3 fouls. So, this whole thing, I guess it just boils down to I'm just so sick of, every call is it literally looks like a rec league game. I mean, every single call, people are, flipping out. Draymond Green can cuss out the ref till he's blue in the face and get 1 technical. What does that do? They're not going to throw him out of a playoff game. No. So give him a personal foul. Now he's got 3, and he has to sit for a little bit. But this thing of you get 2 technical fouls and you get 6 personal fouls. I mean, what's the harm in getting a technical foul? If you're not getting technical fouls, you're not getting your money's worth. And I know that you get suspended if you get so many of them, but at this point in the game, you pretty much have to physically touch a ref to get a technical nowadays.
Yeah.
So I would like to see them change that.
I I don't disagree with any of that. I completely agree. I think it should be added to your total of personal. I mean, technically, it would be a personal foul. So, no, I completely agree with that. But, fun fact, did you know that Mike Conley has never had a technical foul in his entire career?
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's definitely amazing.
But
I mean, the guy just got paid the most money of any NBA player ever, and he's never been fined.
Mike Conley's one of those guys that I wish would have played for the Mavs. Like
Oh hell yeah! Any team I think would love him.
I mean, he's
if he played in San Antonio, he'd be an all-star every season. Let's put it that way.
If he played in San Antonio, or if he played one of these contending teams, he would be all NBA every single year.
Yeah. Yep.
So all right, go ahead.
Oh wait, this is my last. Yeah, this is my last one.
Okay, well hold on. If you got one left, I got two left. So let me jump on my second to last one real quick. My second to last one is I'd make it to where there's no illegal defense. And I never understood the rule of illegal defense. So you're telling me that if Shaq is killing me inside, that I can't swing another guy over there to try to eliminate him? Aren't all the guys on the NBA court supposed to be like the best of the best? Yeah. So you would think that me doubling someone and leaving someone completely wide open would hurt me. So why do I get penalized for doing that? If that's how I want to play defense, then let me play defense that way.
I agree with that. You should be able to strategize any way possible to beat the other team.
And that's what I'm saying right now. I mean, that's why these guys are able to line up and shoot threes all day, is because you can't stay in the paint anymore. If you have a guy that's protected, say you have, I'm trying to think of a team that does this a lot. I think Minnesota does this when Pekovic is in the game. I don't think he shoots threes at a very successful rate. So, but sometimes they'll just have him like hanging out outside the lane, like at the 3-point line, when he has no intention of shooting there. But as a defender, I have to go out there and be within a certain distance of him, or I get penalized for it, which is so stupid. I think it's one of the dumbest rules they have in the NBA.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. The only thing is, I guess the reason it is there is just to sort of even out the game for everybody.
No, I think it's there so that way it allows Shaq to be Shaq. It allows dudes to. It opens up the paint more, so you have a lot more attacking. You have LeBron going down the paint all game. You have Westbrook slashing all game. If you had a center that could just stand under there.
Yeah, but hasn't illegal defense been in play for like 20-something years?
But that's what I'm saying. But now more than ever, you don't have that guy. You don't have that center on the block now because teams have figured out.
Yeah, they all shoot threes.
Half of them don't shoot threes. They're just sitting out there.
How many? Marcus Gasol shoots threes now. All the centers are shooting threes. What are you talking about?
Dude, I'm telling you, watch some of these guys that don't shoot threes.
And I bet you're not starting.
I don't care if they're starting or not. And if I want to let, and that's another thing. If I want to let a center shoot threes all game, then why can't I do that? I'm more worried about guys driving the hole.
I get that.
And those other guys can rotate. I mean, I just think it frees up your defense to do a lot more strategy. But anyways,
I'd rather there be more strategy involved in the game than not. I mean, that's what makes it a game to begin with.
Right.
So make it harder for both teams. It needs to be chess, not checkers.
Right. All right. So what's your last one?
Oh, I completely lied. I had two more. But I will jump on this one real fast. This is more of just a fun idea, and it's been talked about, especially since Splash Brothers have been kind of changing the game with the shooting. It's time to institute the 4-point line. And before you started laughing, everybody, NBA didn't have a 3-point line until after they saw how successful it was in the ABA, how exciting the game was there. So before anybody says, oh, that's hokey, that's cheesy, that's campy, that's stupid, we didn't have a 3-point line either, and look at how that's changed the game. Yes, it could get kind of weird when the game's kind of out of place and you got a bunch of bench players and they're just jacking up 25-footers all game. That could also be fun. Who knows? We won't know until we actually see it. Again, that's another one of those things that I hope they at least try in Summer League at least once just to see how it goes. Just so I can see it, everybody else can see it. It could look like, a bunch of middle schoolers just jacking up half-court shots, or it could be guys with actual skill that kind of equalize the game a little bit. Who knows? So
the only grain of agreement I'm going to give you on this one is if they have a 4-point line, then they get rid of the 3-point line. And the 4-point line is at least 26 feet. So it's like 2.5, 3 feet farther than what it is now.
okay.
So that way you either shoot 4-pointers or I just don't want it to be like one of those, hot shot things where, each point on the court is now a different point interval. And
I'm not saying like just go back to rock and jock or anything.
I mean, pretty close. And
Not at all.
honestly,
There's no fire coming out of the ceiling.
And honestly, I don't enjoy watching NBA very much now. And the main reason is because everyone has the same playbook. We're going to drive the hole, and we're either going to shoot the layup, or we're just going to kick out to corner threes, or we're going to just shoot three. I mean, the Rockets are shooting like 40 threes a game. Like, I don't think that's good for the game. I just don't think, I don't know. I just don't like it. It's like everybody has one play, and you might as well just get, 5 shooters and just set them all around the 3-point line because, they got to come out and guard you because if not, they'll be illegal defense.
I don't think it's bad for the game, like I said earlier. Like it's your job as a coach to strategize and counter what the other team is doing. If that's what they're doing, then go bang them down low. Get your easy points, get your high percentage points, because if they're having 5 shooters on the court, I can almost guarantee you they're not going to have guys to go down, pull down 11 and 12 boards because they're not going to be in position to do so. So
well, that's where you're wrong because 3-point, anybody that knows, 3-point shots create long rebounds, Mike. Everyone knows that.
Oh, okay.
So, sorry I had to break out that knowledge for you, but. So
I love how you backing up the statistics too, but thank you.
Yeah, I don't let statistics get in the way of my arguments. Yeah. So my last rule change, and I think this is something they should implement immediately. I think they should have done it this year. I want to see them reseed the playoffs strictly by record. So
cannot agree more.
1 through 16, you have, regardless of conference, and people be like, no, I like how you have a conference champion and you have okay, well, whoever had the best record of that conference gets a trophy or whatever. So Boston would get the Eastern Conference, whatever. I don't care. Because the goal at the end of the year is to win the title, not to win your conference. That means nothing if you go to the finals and get swept.
It's not like college football. Nobody's really cheering for their conference to beat the other conference.
Right. So first of all, in the first round, here's some of the matchups you would have had. You would have had Washington and Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
You would have had Cleveland, Atlanta.
The first round?
First round. Cleveland, Atlanta. Clippers, Memphis. Utah, OKC. And then some of the other ones aren't that great. But then in the second round, you would have had Golden State, Washington, Boston, Cleveland, Houston, LA or Memphis, and then Utah, San Antonio. Those are way better matchups than...
Yeah, I mean, first and second round are entertaining and not just, let's wait, 4 weeks until this first round is over with and the good stuff starts.
And I just think it's one of those, everybody's pretty much in agreement that the Eastern Conference has kind of been a step or two behind the West for a while now. How many teams in the West do you think would beat Boston in the series?
Spurs, Warriors.
Houston.
Yeah, Houston.
I think Utah beats them. I think the Clippers beat them.
I think Portland on a good week could probably.
I think Memphis could beat them.
Take them 7. I don't know. Well, a fully healthy Memphis? Yeah, maybe.
I think every team other than OKC and maybe...
I'll take Portland out. I'll take Memphis instead of Portland. Yeah.
And that's the second best team in the East. So, I just think it'd make it more interesting, and you wouldn't have sweeps. Like, you wouldn't have the entire Washington in the second round for Golden State is pretty tough. But then Boston, Cleveland in the second round, like you're getting that in the conference finals now. Now you're getting it 2 rounds earlier. I think the ratings would go through the roof. I mean, you just have way better matchups.
Right.
So
I agree with that.
What's your last one?
My last one is just kind of more for fun, more of a food for thought, not really something I think it's could tangibly ever really happen, but it'd be cool if it did. Is to introduce a franchise tag a player, kind of like the NFL does, but a little differently, where you have one player that an organization can franchise, and you get a 2-year max, and you pay that player whatever you want to pay them, but it will not count against the cap space on that team. So, how this works strategically is, let's say you are Oklahoma City 2 years ago when Kevin Durant broke his foot. Let's say you gave Kevin Durant that 2-year contract and you paid him $40-50 million a season, not knowing that he had any foot issues. So he's out for the season. Westbrook goes down for the season, and you're already pretty cap strapped to begin with. Now your attendance is failing, which means your overall bottom line is failing. And then you come into the next season, you still owe Kevin Durant another $40-50 million, and you're kind of hoping the team is going to be as good as it was. You're hoping nobody's really pissed off about losing. Everybody's still kind of in good spirits. You hope the chemistry is still strong. You're kind of hoping that your coach still has a job because he had a bad season. Obviously, your stars are out, so any good organization obviously wouldn't fire the coach. I'm getting off topic here. So anyway, your team is somewhat cap strapped, which means to get back on board, possibly Oklahoma City would have to think about trading Westbrook to go get some draft picks, free up some cap space, maybe starting from scratch and saying, hey, we can't afford to go out and get in free agency. We can't afford the guys that we have right now. So we have to kind of start over from the beginning. It adds some strategy to the front office, which I think makes the game more fun. Just because I'm a data nerd, that's why.
In my opinion, anything that would make it harder for people to kind of sign, because the thing I'm tired of right now is you have guys who at the end of their career, they want to go ring chasing. So you have good players that can still help teams, such as Darren Williams, such as, I know he got traded, but still, or no, he got picked up off waivers, right?
Yeah, he got,
because the Mavs cut him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, released yet, yeah.
Right. So, him, David Lee, David West, these guys that just go from team to team, and those dudes could be starting on playoff teams or close to it.
I'm sure David West is regretting not keeping his $15 million to stay in, where was he, Charlotte? Not Charlotte.
He was in Charlotte for a little bit. Yeah, well, New Orleans now, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, my main issue with the NBA is the thing that makes the NFL so great is you have every team literally has a chance to make a run and go to the playoffs. So last year, who would have thought that Atlanta and Dallas would have been the 2 top seeds in the NFC? I don't think anybody would have predicted that.
No.
I don't think anybody would have predicted that Atlanta should be world champions right now if they
could run the ball in the second half.
If they wouldn't have just completely lost their minds. But you know what I'm saying? Like, there's so many teams in the scheme of things that can make runs, that can do these. That's what makes what the Patriots do so crazy. Is you still have, Carolina went to the Super Bowl the year before, Denver went the year before, and they didn't even make the playoffs this year. Mm-hmm. So there's just that balance. In the NBA, would that ever happen? Other than, the last time I've seen that happen or come close to it is when Dallas won the title, and then the next year they got the 8th seed, I think, because they pretty much scrap the roster and just, get
Right.
pieces here and there as they could. Lamar Odom.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's the main problem for me is there's just not enough parity in the league, and that's why my biggest rule change would be an easy one. You just make it, and they give them enough days in between games now, so you don't have to worry about cross-country travel and all that. If Golden State wins tonight, which they might already have.
They're going to.
Yeah, if they win tonight, then
they're up by 20 with 30 seconds left in the third. Yeah,
I think there's like 9 to 10 days before they play again. I mean, that's ridiculous. That's that's almost 2 weeks. So, the NBA's got to do something about. They can't sit back and think that this is a fluke, that these ratings have been this bad and that people just aren't watching. They've got to take notice of this and they've got to start making changes, or it's going to be a continuing theme. Having the same 2 teams in the finals every year, I don't care what anyone says, is not good for your product. It's not.
No.
When you have 28 other teams that feel they don't have a chance, it's not good. So
parity in the league is the best thing that could happen.
Exactly. So, guys, thanks for listening to us.
Whoa. I'm not done.
Okay, whoa.
I was gonna say I'm happy that we didn't do this. I'm surprised none of us had remove or get rid of the hacker whoever rule. I
don't think it's a bad rule.
I don't think it's a bad rule either. I think if you have a guy on the floor that can't shoot free throws, get him off the floor or get him to start shooting some free throws.
And that's my whole thing, man. I get so sick of people being like, man, I don't want to watch that. Then don't watch basketball.
Yeah,
like
that's
I don't hear anyone complain when they see, a guy go, I think Harden had a game where he was like 5 of 20 something. I didn't hear anyone come out and say, man, they got to stop passing the ball to James Harden. He just can't shoot it. But every time somebody starts hacking someone, and let's be honest, it's only, a handful of guys in the league that it happens to.
Yeah, and they're all big men.
Yeah, and honestly, I love watching it. I love it because every time he misses, it just grows that drama even more. It's like, oh my God, they're going to keep doing this, and this dude's just going to keep failing over and over and over again.
Well, big men and Roberson and OKC, because I remember when they did that to him in that series with Houston, and the crowd starts cheering at him, and he's like telling them to shut up because they're all booing him before when he couldn't hit his free throws. I mean, it's one of those things like even your own crowd can get in your head when you're bad at it. Like,
yeah, I just
as well get in your own head. I mean, it's everybody seeing what you are.
Yeah, I can't see them changing a rule which applies to 3 or 4 guys in the league. I just, and like you said, hey, if DeAndre Jordan wants to become a good free throw shooter, there's no reason why he can't become a good free throw shooter. If Marc Gasol can learn how to shoot threes, then he can learn how to shoot a 15-foot standing still shot. That's just simple as it can get. So, did you want to go over the other thing?
Oh, yeah. So I had a pretty dumb hot take. I was listening to some sports podcasts, and they were talking about how recently Phil Jackson has come out and made a somewhat public statement right after the lottery last week about how he wishes that Carmelo Anthony has future success, whether it be there or not. He just hopes the best for him, and he hopes the best for the Knicks, but he doesn't know if it's going to be with the Knicks. In the back of my mind, I'm thinking, is Phil Jackson white-fanging Melo right now?
Dude, I'm telling you,
he's just throwing rocks at him like, get out of here, boys. But it's good for the best of best for the both of us.
I'm telling you, man, that dude is trying. It's like I don't know why I'm thinking of this right now, but it's like that. There was this old movie with Gabney Coleman. Do you know who that is?
No.
Well, he's an older white guy. Look him up. He's
good.
Okay.
I'll go direct to these old white guys. Pick him
There's
out.
only a few of them in Hollywood. So he was in Cloak and Dagger. Did you ever watch Cloak and Dagger?
No.
My God.
Say stuff I know, man.
Anyways, so he basically the whole movie he's gonna lose his life insurance. Like, he's a cop, and he's gonna lose his life insurance unless he's killed in the line of duty. So he doesn't have enough money for like his kid to go to college or something. So he's purposely trying to get killed in the line of duty. And that's kind of what Phil Jackson, I feel like he's doing, but instead of getting killed, like he wants to get fired. Like he's doing everything possible to get fired. And James Dolan's just like, man, Phil, you're a genius.
He's just like, well, I've been burning money for the last, 10 years. Maybe I should just give some to Phil. God. That seems like a better idea.
And real quick, I don't know how this would work, but I do think there needs to be something to where the league can come together and say, hey, man, this ain't working. And just like any other job, they can, as long as they can find a buyer, they can get rid of you. Because James Dolan is tearing down one of the best franchises in sports the same way that...
Let me ask you this, though. Why are the Knicks considered one of the best franchises in sports?
Because they're in New York.
One championship.
Because they're in New York.
And they've been good since for like a 5-year window with Ewing and Starks.
They didn't win a title with him.
Well, no, I'm saying that's the last time they were good. And that was back in the 90s. Like, they won a championship in the 70s. They were good again in the 90s. That's been it.
They play in Madison Square Garden.
So what?
But I'm just saying it's like a mystique. Like the Lakers haven't been good for 5-6 years.
And they also have the second most championships of all time.
Oh, okay. How bad was Boston 4 or 5 years ago?
Bad.
Terrible. Yeah. So I'm just saying it's not like there's it's not like you could put someone in there.
Relevance to call the Knicks one of the greatest franchises.
You don't think the Knicks are one of the greatest franchises in sports?
No.
In the NBA, they're a top 5 franchise.
But why? Why do you say that? Spurs are better.
It's just the way it is.
Lakers.
If you had a choice to buy the Spurs or buy the Knicks, who would you buy?
Spurs. If you want to keep going to Madison Square Garden and see nothing but empty seats, go take the Knicks.
Well, yeah, if you're gonna keep putting Phil Jackson in there and you're James Dolan and you're gonna keep doing
they were bad
things,
before.
trying to get fights with Charles Oakley.
Phil Jackson was there. They were bad when Isaiah Thomas was there.
Okay, another awesome pick by them.
Yeah.
I'm just saying they're one of the 5 best franchises in the NBA, and they can't win to save their lives.
When you say best, do you just mean profitable?
I'm just saying biggest name brands. Okay, perfect example. Hold on. Perfect example. Perfect example. Are the Dallas Cowboys one of the best franchises in the NFL?
Yes.
Okay. Before last year, were they?
Yes.
Okay, why? They hadn't won a playoff game. They've won one playoff game within 15 years?
Yeah, but
so it's the same thing.
Well, they also have a history of winning championships. Multiple championships.
Okay.
The Knicks do not.
The Knicks have won a couple. They've won a couple titles.
They won one.
I think they've won more than one.
Maybe they won. Okay, they won with Willis Reed, and they won again with Phil Jackson and the dude with the crazy jackets that does sideline play now. Yeah, Frazier. Okay, so they won 2.
Okay. Pretty reputable.
And that was back in black and white TV.
Yeah, they've won 2. So, but again, it goes back to it's like the Donald Sterling thing. They were trying to get rid of that dude forever, and he kept them in the basement of the NBA when he's in LA, and they should have been able to have a good team and have people come out there and watch them play and have good players come out there and want to play for them for decades. And they just sat there and let it happen. I think there's got to be something where hey man, if we don't have confidence in what you're doing, I don't care how much money you spend on this team. It goes back to the league.
I mean, the owners do have a vote on most of these things. I feel like they could force them out and have Adam Silver step in and say, hey, you're ruining the brand of the NBA as a whole, especially with, for some reason, having one of the more notoriable franchises in the league. I mean, I'd hate for it to happen, but it might be one of those scenarios like it happened in New Orleans where the league took over for a season before they had another owner or ownership group come in and take over. But also that seemed kind of shady when New Orleans ended up with the number 1 overall after that.
Well, and you also look at the fact that he's getting into physical altercations with former players in the stands. I mean, it's not...
Yeah.
So, again, we could spend a whole segment on that, but We've kind of ran a little long on this, but we wanted to get some of these points across. So thanks for listening, everybody. We appreciate it. Follow us on Twitter. We're at Board Sports, BORED Sports. And let us know what you think of the show, anything we could change, do better. And Mike, thanks for joining.
Yep. I noticed that all the guys liked, or all the people out there liked y'all's superhero movies. So I think we should definitely add some more pop culture stuff in there.
Yeah, I'm definitely thinking about doing. I think we should do at least.
You know what I want to do? We should talk about what needs to be added, changed, revised, or not touched for the next NBA 2K game.
Okay, we can do that. I'm definitely down to get in some video games, some pop culture, definitely. So we'll be spitting out some more of those type of shows as well. So again, thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks.
Thanks, guys.